Hi everyone, welcome back to the Pro MMA Betting Podcast. So this is a podcast centered around betting only. We look at the odds, we make our predictions based on where we feel the value lies. A bit different to most of the other pods out there where people are just picking who they think wins. Here we go with the value. As I always say, I don't always pick the person I think who has the value. Sometimes I will stick with my gut, but generally this is a betting podcast, guys. So for people tuning in for the first time, it is more betting orientated. So if you like having a bet on the fights, this might be the correct podcast for you to weigh up your options, weigh up the odds, see where the value lies, etc. Sorry I missed last week. We was coming off a good week the week before as well. I think I went 9-1 on the pod and 5 underdogs won. We predicted 3 of them, and one of those fights I didn't actually make a prediction on. So of the underdogs I predicted, 3 out of 4 won. So we was coming off a good week there. So let's see what we can do for this pay-per-view card. Just to remind everyone, I do offer a premium service. There's weekly, monthly, 6 monthly and yearly membership options available. You can either take the pre-bets only, you can take live bet only, or you can take a combination of both. Most people take both. Most members are with me for a year. As I always say, it is a bit like the stock market. There's peaks and troughs. We can't win every week. It is the betting game, and betting on MMA can be extremely unpredictable, but we are long-term winners. All of our bets are tracked, guys, over the last 3 years, and if you are a £100 unit better, you will be up almost £28,000 across the last 3 years if you utilise our service across pre-betting and live betting. As I say, everything's tracked. If you go to the website prommmabetting.com, on the homepage right in front of you, as soon as you go into the website, there's 3 icons. One is for betmma.tips and 2 are for betting.gs. All the bets are tracked across them 3 spreadsheets, so you can see we are fully transparent. Also use my Twitter at prommmabetting to post bet slips. I don't cover up the stakes. I know a lot of touts, for want of a better word, cover up the stake amount. I don't. I'm very transparent with what my bet sizing is. I use £1,000 per unit on pre-bets. I can't do that on live betting just because it's not feasible due to limits, and even back in the good days with Bet365, if you could get down that amount per unit, you'd just be banned very quickly, so it's just not worth it. So I do adjust my unit sizes for live betting, but for pre-betting it is £1,000 per unit. Everything tracked, everything transparent. Like I said, you can go to the website to view the trackers, and across the 3 years members are up almost £28,000 on tipped bets. So we're going to dive into this card, guys. Quite a few fights on the card. It's a pay-per-view card. We've got a crowd, so we're back in the big cage. Something to bear in mind as a bettor. And we've got quite a lot of fights actually on this card. I think we're at about 5, 9, 14, 15. So I'm going to fly through some of these fights really quickly, guys. I haven't got an hour and a half, 2 hours to really break down every single fight here. So first fight on the card is heavyweights, low-level heavyweight fight. Regular listeners will know my opinion on low-level heavyweight fights. I hate betting them. Normally dog or pass for me. We've got Carlos Felipe taking on Jake Collier. So Jake Collier is the guy that moved up from middleweight to heavyweight. Looks physically very, very different and not in a positive way. But he's coming off a win. But it was against one Valente, which doesn't necessarily mean a lot. Valente doesn't really seem to care. He looked terrible himself. He looked a bit better in his fight with Collier, but the fight before where he made his heavyweight debut, he looked absolutely awful. So how much can we take from a win over Valente? It's very difficult to take any positives from that, really. And Felipe, a volume boxer, quite an odd style for heavyweight, where he has a more of a volume approach. Doesn't really seem to hold much power. Seems to go to decision since he's been in the UFC anyway. He's coming off a win over Justin Tafar, but we saw Tafar the other week and he looked terrible against a not great opponent. And he was lighting Felipe up for a round and a half until he just got caught in, I think it was midway through the second round. He got hurt by Felipe and it kind of turned the tide of the fight. Felipe took the second round, and then the third round, it was close. It was a close fight. It still could have gone either way, but kind of left a sour taste in my mouth, especially after seeing Tafar the other day. So Jake Collier's been bet. Felipe's been bet down now. He's about -170. He was up at like -250 at some point. So I completely understand the dog money here. It's not a fight I'm betting. So I just can't bring myself to bet Jake Collier. And Carlos Felipe, just like I said, it's just odd that he just doesn't really seem to be able to finish. And at heavyweight, that's concerning because I've discussed this before. If you're a heavyweight and you're not finishing fights, the longer you're in there, the bigger chance there is that you're going to be knocked out just because of the high variance being a heavyweight. So it's a dangerous style to have in terms of repeatedly pulling wins out. You know, like Andrei Arlovski's probably the best example of someone who's kind of mastered that style. He's adapted his style, doesn't stop people anymore. He just wins decisions, and you know he still gets knocked out. He seems to win 2 or 3 now and then he get knocked out. But he's probably the best example of someone who's kind of got it down at a high-ish level. But it's just, you know, it's just a very difficult thing to do at heavyweight. I'm just looking what the over is here. The over is the same as the Felipe money line. I mean, Collier, how durable at heavyweight? You know, he got stopped by Tom Aspinall very quickly and he went the distance with Valenti, but look how bad Valenti's looked. I don't know, guys. My gut, even though I'm not betting Felipe, I don't feel there's any great value on him. My gut is just saying that he's going to volume his way to a victory here against Collier. So I'm going to pick Felipe, but it is a complete pass fight for me. I don't even think Felipe decision is particularly good. I think I looked before and the odds weren't great on it. The books have kind of cottoned on now, and the punters that is Felipe style, but I wouldn't be shocked if he stopped Collier here anyway. Let's have a look at what the KO is. Felipe, oh, it's quite high, you know. Felipe inside the distance, +240. Let's have a quick look. Where's Felipe KO? Sorry, just trying to find Felipe submission. Felipe wins by KO is +300. Oh, that seems a bit wide to me. First time I've seen this, first time I look through the props is often when I'm doing this pod, and yeah, I don't agree with that. I think that's worth a little sprinkle there. You know, I think the books have gone too much the other way here. Now, if you put a gun to my head and said, what's your prediction for this fight? Yeah, I would say Felipe decision. But +300, it's a heavyweight fight, guys, at the end of the day. And Collier, I mean, I don't know how, you know, when he was at middleweight, it didn't seem like he was cutting a drastic amount of weight and it was affecting his chin because he was knocked out in the lower weight classes, and since moving up to heavyweight he has been knocked out. That just seems off to me. Like, you know, the odds are implying that he's got like a 25% chance of winning by a knockout. I don't agree with that. I think Felipe by knockout is worth a little sprinkle. I've got to be honest, looking at those odds. I'm surprised they're that high. I mean, some books have like +330, +333. I think that's the bet on this fight, to be honest. I think a little sprinkle on Felipe KO because Collier has been knocked out. I mean, as I said, Aspinall knocked him out at heavyweight. And then we've seen him knocked out in the lower weight classes as well. Vitor Miranda knocked him out years ago. Dongyi Yang knocked him out. So it's not like he's got a granite chin. So, yeah, I'll pick Felipe here. I don't think there's any value on the money line. I'd pass on that personally. Same with the decision line, but I definitely feel KO. I just feel it's gone a little bit the other way there. You know, I do get decision being favoured +150, but I think the value on that fight is to have a little sprinkle on Felipe by KO. So that would be my pick here. Let me just check Felipe's KO ratio. Make sure it's not actually terrible. He's got 6 KOs. It would have been against regional bums, probably in Brazil, but you know, De Castro, Tafar, not known for being chinny, and then he lost to Spivak in a close fight. So, yeah, a little sprinkle on the KO line there for me. Right, next fight on the card, we've got Featherweight taking on Luigi Vendramini. Faris, French kickboxer, very traditional French kickboxing style. He trains under Cyril Diabate. Some of you might remember the Snake from a few years back now. Very rangy kickboxer. Fares, similar style. He has struggled with grappling in the UFC, and he's faced two strikers, which is a bit of a concern. The South African chap who's a striker, his name escapes me, basically held him against the fence and took him down. And then Jamie Malarkey would have won that fight if he had any ounce of fight IQ. He should have just settled in half guard in the last minute of round 3. He tried to move to mount and he ended up getting reversed and ended up on the bottom, and it cost him the decision. But both are strikers who had success with grappling. Luigi, there are unknowns in Luigi. He's never won a decision. We haven't really seen him pass round 1. I know he got knocked out in round 2 at welterweight in the UFC against Zaleski, but he's not been the distance, so that's a concern regarding his cardio. And we just haven't seen much of him in the UFC. The fairly quick fight with Zaleski, it went early into round 2, and then his last fight against Ayari, he won very quickly. So there's unknowns there with Luigi. There definitely are unknowns. And Ziam probably does win the stand-up. Luigi is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's going to want to get the fight to the floor, I would think. He trains at Factory X. But I imagine the goal would be to utilise the grappling here to try and get the win that way. So the line's been betting a little bit. We're talking near enough pick and fight now. Luigi was up at as high as like plus like 127. I saw him at. I think that had some value. There is a clear path to victory here. Ziam, is he UFC level? Is Luigi? There are unknowns here, but I think it's dog or pass fight. This one, there is a clear path to victory for Luigi. He's the best grappler Ziam's faced, and he has had his grappling exploited in both UFC fights so far by strikers. So I'll go with the dog here. I'm going to pick Vendramini, even though there are unknowns. So you have to be wary. It's definitely not something you should be going big on. Next fight on the card, we have Chase Hooper, Steven Peterson. I really wanted to fade Chase Hooper, but I've ended up deciding to pass just because Steven Peterson, he's just not that great. And I think he's going to play into Chase's strengths because Peterson's stand-up isn't very good. It's basically a means for him to get a fight to the floor. Basically, he's very tough. He'll keep coming. But honestly, on the feet, it's going to look like hot garbage, this fight. I just don't know how it goes on the feet. And I do think Peterson will go for takedowns. That's his style. Close the gap and take you down. And while it is very difficult to win fights off your back in modern MMA, this is a lower level fight. And Hooper just has that mem kind of style, and we've got the mem king on this card in Paul Craig, so it kind of feels potentially like it's meant to be that we get a Chase Hooper mem sub again. So I mean, Peterson is difficult to put away. Let me just double check, but I don't think he's really been finished. Yeah, he's just got one KO loss on his record, so he is difficult to put away. And he has fought better fighters than Chase Hooper, but he's been out a couple of years. I don't know. I just got this. I just think he's going to play into Hooper's strength. And the problem is Hooper is terrible, but he is a good grappler. He's got them long limbs, and I just wouldn't be shocked to see Peterson try and take him down. Hooper manages to get on his back in a scramble, and then he is a nightmare if he gets your back. So I've just held off, but I've got to pick Peterson, but I haven't bet the fight. But I will side with Peterson just because he's only been stopped once, and it was by KO. I did not see Chase Hooper KO in Peterson unless he gets a similar position like he did with Tamor. Just the referee stops it, or he's trapped on the bottom. But Peterson is gritty. He will come forward. I just worry that he plays into Hooper's world. But I've still got to pick Peterson here. But I haven't bet it. I've held off. I hope I don't regret passing because I really wanted to fade Hooper because he shouldn't be in the UFC. We all know that. But the UFC know what they're doing. They're trying to give him as much a chance as possible. And this fight is. I just worry about Peterson going for the takedowns. If we had a striker here with good takedown defence, I'd be all over them. But I just worry about Peterson playing into his world. And he's had a couple of years out. I mean, he should look fine. 2-year layoffs is never great either. But I'm still going to side with Peterson, but I've just got reservations on that fight. Next fight on the card, we have Matt Frevola, Terrance McKinney. So Terrance is coming in on really short notice here. This is like his third fight in about 5 weeks, I think. He's coming off a win last week. Terrance McKinney is very much the style that he's put forward so far is very much round one or potential bust. He comes out very hot in round one, and I would not be shocked if he caught Frevola with something early. It wouldn't shock me. But the likelihood is Frevola survives and takes over. That is the likelihood. But having said that, I did see the betting line for Frevola at like minus 250, and Matt Frevola is not the kind of guy I'm betting at that price ever in the UFC. Haven't got the lightweight rankings in front of me, but I just doubt there's anyone that I would want to bet Frevola against at minus 250. It's just a no-go for me. In my opinion, and what I'll be doing with this fight, I'm just going to save it for live bet. I'm hoping McKinney has a good round one, Frevola survives, and then look for a live bet angle on the fight. Terrance McKinney round one. I don't know if the odds are out yet for it. Let's have a quick look. Might be worth a little sprinkle if you get something juicy. I don't think it's out yet. So see what the round one prop is for McKinney. Like I say, sometimes, guys, the best bet is no bet. There's no point forcing action. I mean, it depends what you're looking for. If you're someone that just wants to throw a few pennies on every fight just to up your enjoyment, then fair enough. But if you're looking to profit long term and you're putting down decent coin, then some fights it's just better just to pass. You don't have to bet every fight. Don't force a bet. So for me personally, I'm approaching this with a live bet angle. I'm not betting Frevola at minus 250. He's not the kind of guy I'm ever betting at minus 250. Matt Frevola is, he's a tough guy. He's gritty. But minus 250, no thank you, even against Terrance. And McKinney's a good wrestler, and if McKinney doesn't slow down, this has got all the makings for an upset. So look, it's a betting podcast. I've got to go where I feel the value is. It's just too wide on Frevola. Even though, if I was just doing this from a purist point of view and I'm just picking a winner, ignoring the odds, I would pick Matt Frevola, but I'm not. This is a betting podcast, so I have to side with McKinney here. But as I've said, I'm live betting the fight. I'm not actually going to bet him. If round one is something crazy, I might take a stab at McKinney round one, but probably won't. I'll probably just look to live bet Frevola. But if you ask me where I feel the value is, I have to side with McKinney. Matt Frevola, minus 250. That just doesn't sit right with me. Giving Matt Frevola over a 70% chance in a fight in the UFC. He's not that kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that's always in close fights. So I'm gonna pick McKinney based on the odds. But as I said, I'm not betting it. And if the odds were shorter, I'd be interested in Frevola possibly. But no, I'm not playing that. I was very tempted to bet Camacho. Camacho was plus 175, and I probably would have ended up playing it. I was going back and forth on it, but I probably would have ended up playing it. So I was looking to fade him, but here I will just pass and live bet it because Terrance is a bit of an unknown beyond round one. So I'm going to pick McKinney though, just based on the odds. I think they're too wide. Last fight on the preliminary card is Pannie Kianzad versus Alexis Davis. I really wanted to like Alexis Davis here. The problem I have now, I take this fight a couple of weeks ago, guys, but I can remember the main point I took away from the tape is Now, Alexis Davis, how she's winning fights these days is on the floor. She's tough. She'll keep coming forward on the feet, but she's a bit of a zombie on the feet. She just gets picked apart, and she wears damage really badly for a lady. You don't normally see ladies mark up overly bad because the power isn't quite there, etc. But Alexis Davis marks up really bad, so it's a bad optic for the judges. It's never great having your face smashed in, especially if it's quite a close fight. The judges are going to generally go with a person that looks in much better fettle. And yeah, just every fight, Alexis, she's got a lot of scar tissue, but she is a dog and she will keep coming, and she is very good if she gets on top. But what I noticed from tape is she basically gets all of her takedowns from catching kicks. Literally all of them. I think the only takedown in recent fights that she got without a caught kick was against Chikagan right at the end of the third round. I think she got a body lock takedown. But all of her takedowns against Mazo were caught kicks. I think the Jennifer Maia takedowns were, she got one takedown, I think, on Maia, which one of the second round was a caught kick. And even Liz Carmouche was a caught kick when she got Liz down. And Pannie doesn't really throw kicks. She will throw some inside leg kicks, but they're hard to catch. And if you've got an ounce of fight IQ, you just look at the tape and you don't throw kicks. But Pannie isn't really a kicker. She's more of a boxer. So I expect Pannie to box her up. Now, you know my rule, guys. I've been banging on about it a lot recently. Low-level women's MMA, it's dog or pass from a betting angle. And I'm not laying minus 200 on Pannie, because if Pannie does... And the thing is as well, Pannie's takedown defence, yeah, it isn't bulletproof. You know, she did get taken down by Eubanks. She did get taken down by Betch Cohair. But it's just Davis's takedowns just aren't coming in like open like space. She isn't initiating the takedown. She's catching a kick and taking you down. That's just how she's getting them. So I can't bet Pannie at minus 200, because if she does a dump on her back, that's probably the round over. And it's women's fight IQ. It would not shock me if she comes out and throws a body kick to the close side. That wouldn't shock me. I mean, we saw it in men's MMA last week. I can't remember who done it now. It was heavyweight fight. Tanner Bosa done it against Latifi. You know, you're fighting a wrestler and you're throwing a body kick to the close side. It's just bonkers. What is the point? You know, and I'm not being funny, but at heavyweight, look at the size of Latifi. Are you really going to fold that guy over with a body shot? I mean, it seems pretty unlikely. But anyway, enough of that. So this is women's MMA. So I completely get if you're having a stab at Alexis Davis, because 2 takedowns will probably nick it for her. But Pannie should box her up. But it's a betting podcast, guys. I'm going where I think the value is, and I haven't bet Alexis just because it just seems like there's a small window. She needs to catch kicks to get takedowns. It's an easy thing to game plan for. But it's low-level women's MMA. Alexis is a dog. She will get pieced up on the feet, though. And like I said, optics-wise, with the damage, it's not going to look good. But I have to go with... at these odds, though, minus 200. No, I'm picking Alexis. Somehow, some way, I can see her getting a couple of takedowns and eking out a close split decision type fight. Pannie doing something stupid, it wouldn't shock me. I haven't bet it just because I feel like I'm relying on Pannie doing some stupid stuff. You know, I don't feel like I'm relying on Alexis fighting smart and coming out, getting the takedown. I just feel that I'd be relying on Pannie to mess up. So I can't bring myself to bet Alexis, I've got to be honest. But from a betting perspective, there's no way I'm betting Pannie at minus 200. I'd rather bet Alexis at like plus 170 and just sweat it out and hope Pannie does some stupid stuff. But like I said, she can be taken down in open space, but it's just whether Alexis initiates the takedown. She's quite slow. I just feel like she might need the caught kicks, but I'm picking Alexis. Low-level women's MMA. Pannie's minus 200. I get why. Pannie's the favourite. You know, stylistically, if she fights smart, it's a good fight for her. But I'm a bettor. I look at long-term trends. I look at what happens in certain fights. And low-level women's MMA, the dog's alive, guys. And Alexis will fight for your money at the end of the day. So I'm going with Alexis. Preliminary card. So first fight, Movsar Evloev taking on Hakeem Dawodu. Really good fight, this one. Evloev's made improvements in his stand-up, but you've got to give Dawodu the advantage on the feet. even though he can be a little bit low volume, and I just wonder if the wrestling will make him hesitant here. Dawodu, he can be taken down, but he's pretty hard to hold down. Even if you look at his fights like pre-UFC, he's not an easy guy to hold down. He will give up his back and stuff, but he's good at escaping if you take his back. Obviously, you're running a little bit of or playing a little bit of a dangerous game there, but Evloev is probably going to be able to take him down, but can he keep him down? Evloev, the one thing Evloev hasn't really shown in the UFC is great top control. So this is a fight that could be closer than the odds imply. We've got Evloev at about minus 230. So I think since last time I looked, looks like a little bit of the Dawodu money's come in. I mean, I can't fault you for betting Dawodu yet. I don't see Dawodu getting a finish. He's not really been a finisher in the UFC. Most of his fights have been going to a decision, but don't try and get cute and bet the Dawodu decision. If you do, maybe put whatever you want to bet, put 80% of it on his money line and put 20% on Dawodu decision. Have most direction on the money line if you like Hakeem here. There's no point getting cute. Just looking at what Dawodu decision is. Dawodu wins by decision plus 350 you can get. So yeah, I mean I'd go with that 80-20 split if you really like Hakeem here. But I just wonder how much the takedown threat will affect Hakeem on the feet, because like I said, he can be low volume, and he doesn't really put a big stamp on fights. Hakeem, he's normally involved in quite close fights. We saw that last time out as well, and this time there's more of a takedown threat. I wonder what Evloev's game plan will be. I wonder how heavy he's going to be looking for the takedowns. Is he going to fill it out on the feet first? Is his game plan going to be just to mix it up and take the takedowns when opportunity presents itself? I can't look. I see why people will bet Dawodu here. I completely get it. I do. Oh, do you know what? But Evloev is just not a finisher. Look, I'm going to pick Hakeem. I'm going dog crazy here. I'm going Hakeem. I just see it being a close fight. In all honesty, guys, I don't see Evloev running away with it. I just don't see him running away with this fight. I just see it being competitive. And the thing is now with the judging, if you're getting takedowns and not really doing anything with it, it's just not being canted. So obviously, if you're getting some takedowns and the stand-ups fairly even, you should still be winning the rounds. But if he is getting that strike, takes a couple of big shots, even if he got a few takedowns and Dawodu got up, relatively easily, then the judges are tending to side with the strikers these days. So I've got to go with Hakeem. I just think it'll be a close fight. As I said, Evloev's not really a finisher. Hakeem isn't either. His top control's not great. I don't see him taking Hakeem down and just holding him down for 5 minutes. And on the feet, Hakeem is the better striker, but Evloev's striking has improved, and it's just Hakeem needs to just try and fight his normal game plan and not fret about the takedown. I know it's easier said than done, but he can't afford to be extra cautious on the feet because he will just get nabbed on a decision then. But I've got to go at these odds. I've got to go with Hakeem. Minus 230 Evloev. I do like Evloev a lot, but lack of finishing ability. He's at a stand-up disadvantage here. Top control not the greatest. I've got to side with Hakeem. So at these odds, so I'll pick Hakeem. I haven't bet this fight, but I will side with Hakeem here. I just see it being a close fight, guys. And at plus 190, I wouldn't go big. I don't feel like I've got a great read on how the fight plays out, but I can just see it being a close fight. And plus 190, plus 200. If you're going to bet it, it just seems like the obvious play, in my opinion. Lauren Murphy, Joanne Calderwood next. So I'd still class this as lower level women's MMA. And again, I'm just going dog. I am going dog hunting on this card, guys. I'm going to pick Lauren Murphy. On the feet, yeah, I give JoJo the preference. I think she probably does win if it stays on the feet. But if Lauren Murphy can get this fight to the floor, then she can probably do enough to grind out Joanne. And on the feet, Murphy's a dog. She'll get in your face. She'll keep coming. So, Murphy can probably make it a dogfight on the feet. And like I said, takedowns is her path in that. I mean, Calderwood's been mixing in takedowns a lot in her fights recently. But Laura Murphy's very strong in the clinch, very physically strong. I think she'll struggle to take Lauren down. And the thing is as well, Joanne likes to tie plum a lot. If I was game planning her for this fight, I would tell her not to go into the plum at all. She used it a lot against Jessica Eye. But against Murphy, I would be saying, no, let's just keep this fight long, use our kicks from distance and just try and outpoint Murphy that way. I think she's playing a dangerous game if she's going to go into her tire plum here. And, I'm trying to think. I do remember like the Calvillo fight, and she did fight kind of long in that fight. I don't recall her really going into the plum. Obviously, she didn't want to be taken down there. So, I think she can fight smart in that way. But as I said, guys, it's women's MMA. Fight IQ can be abysmal. And if you go into the tire plum with Laura Murphy, there's a good chance she's going to step in, take the body lock and take her down because she's very strong in the clinch. But, she's at a decent camp. They surely have game plan to avoid the clinch, surely. So, but it's women's MMA. One of them's plus 125. I think this fight has split decision written all over it. I'm going to side with the one that's the plus 125 underdog when I see a fight going to a split decision. So I'm going with Laura Murphy. Eryk Anders, Darren Stewart. So this is a rematch from a couple of months ago. One thing to point out is this rematch is at light heavyweight. So Darren Stewart's going back up to light heavyweight here for the first time in a long time since his second or third UFC fight. Eryk Anders has fought at light heavyweight as well. I actually thought he looked okay at light heavyweight against. No, it was at middleweight. No, it was at light heavyweight. He fought Thiago Santos, wasn't it? But he looked really good last time against Stewart, just physically. He'd done his camp, I think he was at Fight Ready. First time he'd done his camp there, and physically he looked really good. And the way the fight played out, so Darren Stewart started out okay. They was at range for the first minute, and Stewart's speed seemed to be causing some problems. But as soon as Anders got in close, got Stewart on the fence, Stewart was in big trouble, and he had Stewart badly hurt. But he threw an illegal knee. Now, did Darren Stewart take the no contest there? I don't know. I'm not going to call into question Darren Stewart's toughness. The guy's proven time and time again he's tough as nails. But he did get hurt in that fight, and he's always had a granite chin, Darren Stewart. But Anders showed that he could hurt him there, but he had him trapped against the fence. So this is a big cage as well. This first fight was in the apex or in the small cage. So the big cage definitely favours Stewart because he's going to be the one that's going to want to try and be light on his feet. He's going to want to try and be using his speed to his advantage. And Anders is, based on the first fight, he's going to want to get the fight back on the cage because he's definitely at a speed disadvantage. Look, you can watch the first fight and you can kind of be tempting to, well, Anders had him out and done. I want to bet Eryk Anders here, but Eryk Anders is minus 150. I can't bet Eryk Anders as a favourite in the UFC. Can't do it. He's a dog or pass type guy. Darren Stewart, kind of the same type of fighter for me, dog or pass. So I'm going with another dog here. I could get eaten alive on this card, but I'm going for a dog on the next fight as well. Christ. How many dogs in a row have I picked? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going 6 dogs in a row, guys. We're going record territory here. Dog City. How many dogs have I picked before that? Peterson's a favourite. Luigi's the underdog. I did pick Felipe, didn't I? So we've got a couple of favourites, but we're going to need the dogs to be barking. Otherwise, our predictions are going to be off. But guys, like I said, I'll go with the odds here. And some of these fights, all of these fights. There's not one fight so far that I think is, that won't be close. Honestly, the only fight I see not being close so far is, no. Every fight so far is well matched. The only fight I think on this whole card, in fact, that this probably will be a bit of a rout is the Leon Edwards fight. Besides that, these are all close fights. So Anders Stewart, look, I haven't got a bet on the fight. I haven't bet it, and it's not good. Stewart was, for all intents and purposes, TKO'd a couple of months ago against Eryk Anders. But the big cage changes things. I don't know how it changes 205. Being at 205 is probably. Anders is the bigger man, so it's probably better for him that it's at 205. But Darren Stewart, I know, wasn't enjoying the cut down to middleweight, but he's probably more the middleweight of the two. So 205, probably advantage for Anders. It's going to be a dogfight, guys. It will be a dogfight. Anders will get him up against the fence at some point, I'm sure. But I give Darren the advantage out of range. I'm going with Darren Stewart, but it's definitely not confident. You've got to have some balls to bet this fight. I don't know if I've got them, but I will side with Stewart as the underdog. Like +1, you can get +130 on him. But I am passing the fight because it's just one that it really wouldn't surprise me anything in that fight. Yeah, +130. I've got to pick Darren Stewart here, guys. Last fight, the preliminary card: Dober, Brad Riddell. I'm going Brad Riddell again. Brad Riddell got bet out to like +130. I've got some money on Brad Riddell here. +130. I just see this as more of a 50-50. I don't think Dober is going to have any success trying to take Brad Riddell down. Brad Riddell's shown that he's got some solid takedown defence, and if he does get taken down, he's decent at getting back to his feet. This is the first fight really where he's... I mean, it does depend on Dober's strategy, but potentially it's his first fight where he's going to get an all-out striking match. Malarkey tried to grapple a lot because he was outgunned on the feet. The Russian guy tried to wrestle for 3 rounds, and he's coming off the fight with Silva, who basically was just trying to wrestle him. So, you might see a bit of a better version of Brad Riddell here because he can probably relax a little bit. I mean, I expect Dober will try and mix in the takedowns, but I just don't think he's going to have any success, and I don't think Drew's going to overly pursue it. If he gets stuffed and Brad's getting back to his feet, I think he'd just kind of leave it alone. So I think he probably... Well, the odds are, out of everyone he's faced in the UFC so far, this is the fight where he doesn't have to worry so much about the takedown defence. I mean, Dober's got some good wins, don't get me wrong. The knockout at Nasrat, very impressive. He knocked out Paulo Hayes fight before that. That was a great fight for him. I bet Dober there. But Nasrat was a very good performance, put him away. And then the Alex Hernandez fight, just melted him with pressure. That was a great performance as well. And Makhachev fight, you can't really read too much into that, just stylistically nightmare fight for him. But, stand-up fight, Brad Riddell, he's had 60 kickboxing fights. From what I can see, he's never been knocked out, Brad Riddell. So, everyone says Dober's got a solid chin. He's only got the 1 KO loss in MMA. Dober was back early in his career. Brad Riddell, from what I can see across MMA and kickboxing, and we're talking over... I think we're talking like 80 fights. I don't think he's been knocked out. So, you've got to assume this guy's got a chin on him. And... like I say, 50-50 for me, and Brad Riddell is the one that is up at +125. He was +129 at Bet-Online a day or two ago. I've got to go where I feel the value is, and 50-50 fight. There's some slight value on Brad Riddell for me. If Dober can't knock him out, what's going to be very interesting for me is the pressure dynamic. Dober loves to come out and pressure. Is he going to be able to push back Brad Riddell like he has been everyone else? I don't think so. I think Brad's going to hold his feet. So this could get very interesting. So really good fight. I'm really looking forward to it. Potential fight of the night. It's definitely going to be sweaty if you're betting it. I could see it being definitely swings and roundabouts in this fight. But I'm siding with Brad Riddell at the odds, guys. This is a betting podcast. Remember, I'm going to go where I feel the value lies, and I think it should be more like a pick'em. Brad Riddell's the underdog. I'm going to go with Brad Riddell. Next fight, Jamahal Hill taking on Paul Craig. Paul Craig's built, fair play to him. He's built himself a decent career in the UFC. The UFC know what they're doing with him. Paul Craig, he pulls a sub win out of his arse or he loses, generally speaking. Hill should win this fight. He's got the better stand-up. It just comes down to how sensible Hill is, and he doesn't get overly confident. Because it's easy to look at Paul Craig. I can see how fighters can do it, especially confident fighters. Look at Paul Craig and think, oh God, I'm going to run through this guy. But he's dangerous. For a light heavyweight, he's got a very dangerous submission game. You've got to respect him. Now, I'm not playing Hill at all here, -300. I'm not interested against the Mem King. And Hill's, there are some unknowns, and he has been taken down a lot in fights. I mean, he does tend to pop back up to his feet, but against someone like Paul Craig, getting taken down is dangerous because it opens opportunities for Craig when you're getting up. If you give your back, transitions, scrambles, and Paul Craig can end up in a dangerous position. And you've got to remember as well, he's very dangerous off of his back. For a light heavyweight, extremely dangerous off of his back. You've got to be very careful with him because he doesn't mind being on his back. So he will pull guard and stuff. And, he will go for... he will try and jump on your back from an odd angle, and he doesn't mind if he slips off and ends up on the bottom. That's his game. So you've got to mind your P's and Q's when you're fighting Paul Craig. But I've got to go with Hill, but I'm not betting. Let's just have a look at what the props are. Worth having a look at Hill knockout. It's probably rubbish, but Hill wins by TKO. Yeah, minus money. I'm not into playing props at minus money unless I feel extremely strongly. Craig submission plus 500. Look, if someone says to me they're going to throw a little bit on Paul Craig submission at plus 500, who am I to fault it? I can't. What's his inside the distance though? Because you've always got to be careful, guys, taking a specific outcome over inside the distance when there's not much in it. So let's have a look. Craig wins inside the distance. I can't see it. 1 sec. Yeah, see that he's like plus 400 to win inside the distance, plus 500 by submission. It's not worth it, guys. Just take inside the distance. If you really want to bet the sub prop, I'd put like 80% of what you want to bet on Craig inside the distance and put 20% of it on Craig submission. Don't burn yourself. I've been there, I've done it. You'll regret it. You'll kick yourself. You're just being greedy. Plus 400 versus plus 500. It's nothing. Just be smart. Take the inside the distance prop if you want to bet, or have a little sprinkle on Craig's inside the distance victory. It's probably worth it. I haven't bet it myself. I might end up throwing 100 quid on Craig inside the distance. You just never know. But I'm picking Hill here. I can't keep picking underdogs. But I don't think there's value really on the money line. I'm just not interested in it. But I am someone that was burnt, and I will never forget it, by Paul Craig. I had Ankalaev in a double. Can't remember who with, when he fought Paul Craig, and I got a decent line. I know it ended up closing ridiculous, but I got something decent on. I think it was on Betfair Exchange. I got a decent amount matched. Maybe not the exchange. Maybe this was back when I had the sports book still. I got a decent amount down at I think plus minus 280 or something. And then he obviously got tapped out with a second left. So I'm always mindful of betting Paul Craig fights because I will never ever forget that. That's one of that is probably the worst loss I've ever suffered. And on the same night on live bet, I live betted, and this is back. I know I mentioned earlier about the large units, but this is back when I had 365, and I remember I put $1,000 on Leon Edwards to win by decision on live bet. I can't remember what odds I got. I think it was evens, maybe minus 120 or something. And Paul, bloody referee, stopped the fight with a second left. It was just a brutal night, 2 losses by 1 second. I'll never forget that night. But anyway, right, moving on. Belal Muhammad taking on Demian Maia. Oh, Christ. I haven't bet Demian Maia, but I've got to admit, guys, I strongly considered it. If you look at Belal Muhammad's resume, there's not many fighters that have had that many fights in the UFC that have had that kind of matchmaking. Now, I know he's had some tough fights, he's faced Luke and he's faced Jeff Neal, but you look at the other matchups and he's been matched really well, Belal Muhammad. Fair play to the guy. He's been very fortunate in his matchmaking, and he's never faced a grappler. It just hasn't happened. He has been taken down. I remember he got taken down by Sato, and I remember Alan Jabane was trying to take him down in the first round, and I remember Jabane was kind of getting on his arse, but he couldn't keep him down. So, I mean, this is the big unknown going into this fight is Belal's takedown defence and get-ups. I mean, Demian is 43, though. That's just what held me off betting him. It's a big cage as well, so that is to Belal's advantage, and we know Demian slows down. The fight goes to distance, it's almost certain that Belal will win round 3. So then he needs to take 1 or 2. Demian, his takedowns are very, very good though, but he's just getting up there in age. Belal might look, in my opinion, I'm going to have to pick Demian Maia because that's just where I feel the value lies. I don't feel good about it. I've held off betting him, but if I had to bet this fight, it would be Demian Maia I'd be betting. I think you might get an angle to live bet out of it after round one. I mean, if Belal wins round one, then Damian's got no chance. It's pretty much a fight over. But there's probably a good chance a much better chance than plus 185 that Demian Maia wins round one. And then live betting will probably give you, now they will know, the books are a lot sharper on live bet than they used to be. They will know what's likely going to happen. Demian is going to basically slow down from here on out. So even if Demian dominated round one with his grappling, I don't think you'd get crazy odds on Belal as an underdog. I still think going into round two they would have it at, pretty close to evens. So you could, in theory, then cover your Demian Maia bet at the end of round one. But this is playing a dangerous game, trying to predict outcomes, and which is obviously what we are doing as bettors. But you're trying to be very specific here, and I have tried to do this stuff in the past, and it doesn't always work out. The fights, you know what it's like. MMA is so unpredictable. Fights often don't work out or play out how you expect them to. So, no, I'm going to pick Belal. I do think the value is with Demian, I've got to admit, from a betting standpoint, but he's 43. I just can't bring myself to bet him. The big cage is definitely better for Belal here as well. I mean, the thing is, though, Belal's got no finishing ability. You're basically betting on Belal to win by decision. With Demian, I think he's got more paths to victory. He could win by submission and he could eke out a decision. No, I'm going to go Demian. Like I said, I haven't bet it. 43, he slows down. He will get outstruck. But plus 185, I feel he's got two paths to victory versus Belal's one. But yeah, 43, he's on his way out. So I haven't bet it. I'm going to pick mine. I'm going with another dog. Next, Leon Edwards, Nate Diaz. Look, the line's unplayable on Leon, but I've got to go with Leon here. I just don't see how Nate wins this fight. Even if Leon slows down, I think the takedown's still there for him. Nate's never been good at getting back to his feet. He's always got bad optics with his scar tissue. He cuts up easily. Big cage favours Leon as well. I'm not spending much time on this fight. I've got to go Leon, guys. People have probably got him parlayed up and whatnot. I'd be shocked if Nate pulled that win out of the bag. So co-main event, men's flyweight title rematch. Brandon Moreno taking on the champ Deiveson Figueiredo. Look, I like Moreno here. I've got to be honest. These odds, the odds were a bit better earlier in the week. You could have got plus 210 on Brandon Moreno. Now, the first fight was a very competitive fight. Obviously, the draw is because of the point deduction. Now, Moreno would have lost that fight otherwise. But if we take away the point deduction, we're still talking he would have lost on two judges' scorecards by a point. So that's one round. It's a swing round. And a couple of the rounds were close. And what we also have with this fight is going into round 5 when all the momentum seemed to be with Moreno, he hurt his shoulder, so he just couldn't let his hands go in round 5. It really affected his volume. The other thing to point out as well is this is in a big cage, which definitely favours Moreno versus the small cage and the pressure-in, stalking style of Figueiredo. And also what I took away from the first fight is Figueiredo never seemed to hurt Moreno, whereas Moreno had Figueiredo, I'm not going to say hurt per se, but he definitely had him stunned or rattled a couple of times. And Moreno's just incredibly tough. He got easy takedowns when he went for them. Now, he couldn't keep Figueiredo down. Figueiredo scrambled up. But there's a lot of positives to take from this fight if you're Brandon Moreno. And there's always the chance as well that Figueiredo is going to gas out, have a really bad weight cut. The guy's huge for 125. So I've got to side with Moreno here and pick there to be a new champ. Now, it's likely going to be a very competitive, close fight, but one round swing last time, and at those odds, it's just too wide. I just don't see why the odds are so wide. I mean, when he was, he's coming a little bit, but when he was plus 210, we're talking about in probability terms. Like, you're saying he's got like a 30%, 32% chance of winning. And the first fight was decided, if we remove the point deduction, the first fight was decided by 1 round, on 2 of the scorecards, which is enough to obviously swing the fight if the judges went the other way. So, yeah, I mean, I would cap this fight. Figueiredo, I would cap him as a slight favourite, but I don't know. Minus 250, I think, is way too wide. No way I'd be putting him in. I mean, he didn't hurt Moreno. I mean, I'm not saying he can't finish Moreno, because Figueiredo does have obscene power for a flyweight, but when you just watch the first fight and you see who was hurt and who wasn't, it was Fig that was hurt and Moreno who wasn't. Moreno does need to get off to a better start, though, here. I mean, Figueiredo, obviously, when he's fresh, he comes out of his pressure in style. But you do feel he needs to bag round 1 or round 2, Moreno. He can't really be going into round 3, 2 rounds down, even though the longer the fight goes, in theory, it does favour Moreno. His cardio is probably a bit better. He's not going to be boiling himself down to make the weight and so forth. So, but, I saw enough in that first fight to know, in my opinion, that plus 210 is a good bet on Brandon Moreno here. This fight should be lined closer, in my opinion. I would have it, I don't know. I mean, I said to the guys in the chat, Figueiredo minus 150, but I think even that's a bit wide. I think it should be a bit shorter. So, yeah, Brandon Moreno all day for me at those odds. Remember, it's a betting podcast, guys. We're looking at the odds. Main event, Adesanya taking on Vettori. So, men's middleweight title. Izzy coming off of his failed attempt at the light heavyweight title. Large cage, so that's better for Izzy. Can move around, uses kickboxing. Cardio advantage to Izzy. Marvin, I just think Marvin will get picked apart on the feet. I was big on Marvin against Jack Hermansson. I thought it was a good fight for him. I remember round 3. I mean, he has these cardio issues, Marvin, where he definitely slows down in fights. Like, it is a thing with him. Against Hermansson, I don't know whether he took round 3 off, but I remember thinking, like, it's 2 rounds up, he's cruising here, and he lost round 3. I thought it was all going to come crumbling down, but fair play to him. He came back in round 4 and 5, but he's not known for his power, Marvin. And that's the other thing. It's not like he's a huge puncher, so it's not like, okay, he's outskilled on the feet, but he's got that equaliser, that power. He doesn't really have it. He's realistically, to win this fight, he's going to need takedowns. Now, he is good on top, Marvin, but Izzy has shown. I know he got grappled in his last fight against Yan. He got taken down in open space, but Yan's a big guy, physically strong. Probably wouldn't look out